The great recreation dome of the space station was always full of noise. Children's laughter echoed through the wide halls, mixing with the hum of machines that kept the artificial gravity steady. Lights glowed above like a warm sky, and the ground below was soft with artificial grass imported from Earth. Every day, children of many different species came here to play. They chased each other across the field, rolled balls of different colors, and invented games that mixed human rules with alien traditions. In the middle of this joyful chaos, one figure always stood apart. Her name was Lyra. She was small, with pale skin that shimmered faintly under the dome lights, and long silver hair that fell across her shoulders like a curtain. Her eyes were large and bright, the kind that always seemed to hold too many unspoken words. She wore the simple robe of her people, light blue with thin threads that reflected faint light when she moved. But she did not move much. She stood near the edge, silent, her hands folded together, watching the others with quiet longing. Lyra belonged to the Xerians, a race known for speaking softly and living gently. Among humans and the other louder, more active species, Xerians often seemed shy or distant. On this station, where boldness was admired and strength was praised, her quiet nature made her invisible, or worse, an easy target for whispers. The children laughed, but not with her. They ran but never invited her to run with them, and though she wanted to step forward, her legs felt heavy, like chains bound her in place. She told herself she was used to it, but deep inside, each day cut a little more. Every afternoon when the games began, she came to the dome anyway. She told herself it was enough to watch. She liked the sound of joy even if she was not part of it. She liked to imagine herself running too, being called by name, being welcomed. Sometimes she even smiled for a brief second before remembering. It was only a dream, but she never knew that someone else was watching her as carefully as she watched the games. Daniel was a human boy, a little older than Lyra. He had short brown hair and clear eyes that always searched for something interesting. He loved running with the others, but he also had a habit of noticing things most ignored. For several days now, he had noticed the strange alien girl standing alone. At first, he thought maybe she just liked watching, but then he saw the way her hands tightened when the other kids shouted happily, and the way her lips moved slightly, as if she whispered words no one heard. He saw how her eyes followed every move, full of longing she tried to hide. One day, as he caught his breath between games, he looked toward her again. She stood in the same place, as if glued to the ground, her robe brushing the grass. Around her, no one came near. It was as if an invisible wall pushed the others away. Daniel tilted his head, frowning. Why did no one speak to her? Why did no one ask her to join? The dome was for everyone, wasn't it? He thought about it all evening, and when the next day came, he made up his mind. While the other kids were busy arguing about which game to play first, Daniel walked across the field. His steps were firm, carrying a mix of curiosity and determination. A few children noticed and whispered, but he ignored them. His eyes stayed fixed on Lyra. She noticed him approaching, and her body stiffened. Her first thought was fear. Had she done something wrong? Was he going to tell her to leave? Her people were often told they did not belong. She took a small step back, her fingers curling into her robe. Daniel slowed down as he neared her, not wanting to scare her more. When he was just a few steps away, he smiled. It was a simple smile, the kind that said he meant no harm. "Hi," he said softly. Lyra blinked. The word was simple, but it felt heavy in the quiet air between them. For a moment, she did not answer. Her voice was always something she hid, because children laughed when her words came out slow or carried the unusual tone of her people. She looked at the grass instead of him. Daniel waited. He did not frown. He did not repeat himself impatiently. He just stood there, still smiling, giving her time. Finally, she whispered back, so soft, he almost missed it. "Hello?" It was one word, but for Lyra it felt like crossing a wide bridge. Daniel's smile grew wider. "I'm Daniel," he said. He pointed at himself, then at the group of children playing behind him. "I play with them. Do you Want to play? Lyra's heart raced. The question hit her like a shock. No one had asked her that before, and they wanted to say yes, but the fear was stronger. Her lips parted, but no words came. She shook her head quickly, then looked down again, ashamed of her own cowardice. Daniel scratched his head. He had expected her to say no, but he also noticed the way her eyes had lit up for half a second before she refused. That look told him the truth. She wanted to play more than anything, but something inside her kept her frozen. He did not push. Instead, he sat down on the grass in front of her. "It's okay," he said casually. "We don't have to play. Right now. We can just sit." Lyra looked at him in surprise. No one had ever chosen to sit near her before. She hesitated, then slowly lowered herself onto the grass as well, leaving a careful space between them. For a while, they just sat in silence. The sounds of laughter filled the air, but it was different now. It wasn't painful. Somehow sitting with Daniel made it softer, like the sound belonged to both of them even if they weren't in the middle of it. Daniel picked up a small stone and rolled it between his fingers. "Where are you from?" he asked after a moment. Lyra hesitated again, but something in his voice told her it was safe to answer. "Zara," she whispered. Her accent was thick, but Daniel leaned closer to catch her words. "It is far. What's it like there?" he asked, genuinely curious. Her eyes softened as she remembered. "Forests," she said slowly. "Big, tall trees. Sky that changes color." Daniel's eyes widened. "Really? Changes color? That sounds amazing." A small smile tugged at her lips. No one had ever called her home amazing before. She nodded gently. He grinned. "On Earth, the sky stays blue. Sometimes it gets orange at sunset, but never changes all the way. I think your planet sounds better." Her smile grew a little. It was shy, but it was there. For the first time, Lyra felt a small piece of the wall inside her break. They sat there longer, exchanging simple words. Each answer Lyra gave was careful, quiet, but Daniel treated them like treasures. He never laughed, never rushed her, and slowly she began to trust. When the games ended and the children went home, Lyra found herself wishing this moment would not end. As Daniel stood to leave, he waved at her. "See you tomorrow?" Her heart skipped. She nodded softly. And for the first time since arriving at the space station, Lyra walked back to her family quarters with something new in her chest, a fragile, glowing spark of hope. The next day in the recreation dome, everything looked the same, children shouting, running, and filling the wide space with laughter. But for Lyra, everything felt different. Yesterday, something small but powerful had happened. For the first time since she had come to the station, someone had spoken to her kindly. Someone had chosen to sit beside her, not to mock or ignore her. She had spent the night replaying the memory again and again. Daniel's smile, his gentle way of waiting for her to speak, his simple questions about her homeworld, it all felt unreal. Lyra wondered if he would really come back. She worried that maybe he had only been curious once and would forget her today. So she stood in her usual place, her hands clasped together tightly, her eyes fixed on the entrance. Each second stretched long. Then she saw him. Daniel came running into the dome with two other human boys, laughing and carrying a ball. But unlike the others, he glanced around as soon as he entered. His gaze found her quickly. The moment their eyes met, he waved. A wide smile spread across his face as if he had been looking forward to this moment too. Lyra's heart jumped. She gave a small, shy wave back. Daniel dropped off the ball with his friends and jogged over to her. "Hey," he said, just as casually as yesterday. She nodded softly. "Hello." Her voice was still quiet, but it came a little easier this time. Daniel sat down beside her again. "I told my mom about your planet," he said with excitement. "The one with the sky that changes color. She thought it was really cool too. She said maybe one day humans will visit it." Lyra blinked in surprise. Someone else had heard her. Words. Someone else thought her home was special. Her lips curved into the smallest of smiles. Maybe, she whispered. Daniel grinned at her reaction. I've been thinking, maybe you can tell me more about it, like the forests? Are they like the trees here? He pointed toward the artificial plants near the dome walls. Lyra shook her head. Her voice trembled, but she spoke anyway. Much bigger, taller than towers, leaves, shine at night. Daniel's eyes widened. Leaves that shine? That's amazing. Do they glow like lights? She hesitated, searching for the right word. Not glow. Reflect. Moonlight. He nodded, impressed. That sounds beautiful. You know, on Earth, some insects glow at night. Fireflies. But not trees. Lyra tilted her head slightly. The word was new. Fire. Flies. Daniel picked up a stick from the ground and drew a little circle in the dirt. They're small like this, and at night their tails light up. People chase them in summer. It's fun. Lyra's eyes lit up with interest. She imagined tiny glowing creatures dancing through the night. It sounded magical. For a moment, she forgot her fear. I would like to see, she whispered. Daniel smiled again, happy she had said more words than yesterday. Maybe one day. If you come to Earth, I'll show you. The promise was simple, childish even, but to Lyra it felt powerful. It was the first time anyone had spoken to her as if they wanted to share a piece of their life with her. As they sat together, some of the other children began to notice. A pair of human girls whispered, pointing toward them. One boy from another species frowned, muttering something about the quiet Xerian. Lyra heard the whispers and her body tensed. The old fear rose in her chest, telling her to retreat, to hide. But Daniel noticed too. He leaned closer and said in a low voice, "Don't worry about them. They don't know you yet." His words were steady, sure. They calmed her like warm sunlight. For the first time, she didn't run away when others stared. She stayed, because Daniel stayed. After a while, Daniel stood up. "Come on," he said, holding out his hand. Lyra looked at it, unsure. "Where?" she asked softly. "To play," Daniel said simply. "Just a little. You don't have to run if you don't want to. We can just throw the ball." Her heart pounded. Play? That was the one thing she had always dreamed of but never dared. She stared at his hand for a long moment. Her mind screamed no, but her heart whispered yes. Slowly, very slowly, she reached out and placed her hand in his. Daniel grinned and gently pulled her forward. They walked to a quieter corner of the dome where fewer children played. Daniel's friends were busy with their own game, so no one bothered them. He picked up a small ball and rolled it toward her feet. "Try," he encouraged. Lyra hesitated. She bent down, picked up the ball carefully, and rolled it back. The movement was stiff, clumsy, but Daniel clapped anyway. "Good, see? Easy." Something warmed inside her. He wasn't judging. He was cheering. They rolled the ball back and forth, at first slowly, then a little faster. Daniel laughed when the ball bounced the wrong way, and soon Lyra found herself laughing too, quietly but real. Each time she returned the ball, her movements grew steadier. For the first time, she was playing. Minutes passed, and her smile grew, but then one of the older kids called out, "Hey, Daniel, what are you doing with her?" The words cut the air like a knife. Lyra froze, fear flooding her again. She expected Daniel to back away, to leave her alone before the others mocked him too. Instead, Daniel turned his head and shouted back, "We're playing. You should try it. It's fun." His tone was bright and confident, as if there was nothing strange about it. The older kid rolled his eyes and walked away. Daniel turned back to Lyra, who still looked uncertain. "Don't listen to them," he said softly. "They just don't understand yet." Her chest tightened. She wanted to believe him. More than that, she wanted to trust that his words were true. Slowly, she nodded. The ball rolled again between them, and the game continued. With each throw, Lyra felt the heavy weight inside her chest grow lighter. The whispers in her head, the ones that always told her she didn't belong, grew quieter, too. When the session ended, Daniel stood up, brushing grass from his clothes. "You did great today," he said warmly. "Tomorrow we can try something new. Maybe running if you want." Lyra's eyes widened. Running? The thought scared her, but also excited her. She nodded shyly. "Maybe," Daniel grinned. "See? You tomorrow, then." As he jogged back to join his friends, Lyra remained standing for a long moment. Her hands trembled slightly, but her lips carried a gentle smile. She had spoken more words today than she had in weeks. She had played, she had laughed, and all because one human boy had reached out his hand. That night, when she returned to her quarters, her parents noticed something different. Her steps were lighter. Her eyes shone brighter. For the first time since leaving her homeworld, Lyra told them about her day. Not in whispers, but in full sentences. She spoke of Daniel, of the ball, of laughter. Her parents listened with quiet joy, relieved to see their daughter finding a piece of happiness. Lyra went to bed, that night with her heart full. She hugged her blanket close and whispered to herself, "Tomorrow I will smile again." The recreation dome buzzed with excitement. Today was different. A large match had been announced, one where human children and alien children would form mixed teams. The adults believed it was good practice, a way for the young to learn teamwork across species. But for the children, it was something else entirely, a chance to prove themselves. The game was a simple one, based on Earth's sport of capture ball, but with rules adapted so different species could take part. 2 teams, 1 ball, and the goal was to carry it across the other side without being tagged. Quickness, teamwork, and clever moves were the keys to victory. Lyra stood near the edge of the dome, her heart pounding as she listened to the announcements. Part of her wanted to stay far away. The thought of stepping onto the field made her knees shake. But part of her, stronger than before, wanted to try. Daniel had said she could. Daniel had promised to stand by her. He ran over to her before the teams were chosen. His face was bright with excitement. "Lyra, come on, let's play together today. We'll be on the same team." Her hands clutched at her robe nervously. "Me?" she whispered. "No, I cannot." "Yes, you can," Daniel said firmly, though still kindly. "It's just a game. If we lose, it doesn't matter. But if you play, it'll be fun. I'll stay with you the whole time." Lyra's breath caught in her throat. She looked past him at the large group of children waiting. Their voices were loud, their movements strong. She felt so small among them. Yet Daniel's eyes were steady, and his hand reached out again like it had the first day. This time, after a long moment of trembling hesitation, she took it. The teams were divided quickly. Some children frowned when they saw Lyra step forward. A human boy muttered, "She won't be any help." Another child from a bird-like species tilted his head and whispered, "The quiet one? Why is she here?" Lyra heard them all. The whispers sliced into her chest like sharp edges. She almost turned back. But Daniel squeezed her hand once before letting go. "Ignore them," he whispered. "You'll see. You'll do great." Her legs still shook, but she stayed. The match began. The whistle echoed, and the children burst into motion. Shouts filled the air and the ball flew high above before landing in the middle of the field. Everyone ran for it. Lyra stayed back, frozen, her heart racing. She didn't know how to start, what to do. "Come on," Daniel called, to her, already moving but slowing down so she wouldn't be left behind. She forced herself to take a step, then another. The grass felt slippery under her feet, her robe tugging at her knees as she ran. Every sound around her was too loud, every movement too fast. She stumbled once, catching herself, but kept going. Another boy grabbed the ball and dashed forward. His teammates cheered while the opposing side rushed to stop him. Daniel ran to block one of them, calling back to Lyra, "Stay close." She tried, but her movements were clumsy, her arms stiff. When the ball changed hands and sped past her, she barely reacted. A few children on the sidelines laughed quietly. She heard it, and her cheeks burned. Her fear grew heavier. She began to think maybe she should step out. Maybe she didn't belong here after all. Then Daniel appeared at her side again, panting lightly. "Don't worry. First game is always confusing. Just watch me, okay? Do what I do." Lyra nodded faintly. Her eyes followed him, trying to copy his steps. Minutes passed, and though she didn't touch the ball, she stayed in the game. She ran when her team ran, stopped when they stopped. Slowly, her movements became less stiff. Her breath came faster, her body warming with effort. And even if she wasn't shining, she was still there, still trying. That was new. Then came the moment that tested her. The ball rolled loose across the grass, bouncing right toward her. For a second, everything slowed. Children shouted, footsteps thundered, and the ball stopped just a step away. It was hers to take. Her heart leapt into her throat. She froze, her body trembling. She wanted to reach out, but fear screamed at her. What if you fail? What if they laugh? "Lyra!" Daniel's voice cut through the noise. "Take it." His voice was full of trust, not doubt. With shaking hands, she bent down and grabbed the ball. It was heavier than she expected, but warm, solid. She looked up. 2 opponents were rushing at her. Panic filled her chest. She clutched the ball, tighter, unsure what to do. Daniel shouted again, "Run to me!" He waved from a few steps away, already making space for her. Her feet moved before her fear could stop them. She ran, awkward at first, but faster with each step. The other children closed in, but Daniel darted forward, blocking one with his shoulder. "Go, Lyra, go!" She stumbled once, but kept going until she reached him. Breathless, she shoved the ball toward him. He caught it easily and dashed across the field, scoring a point for their team. Cheers erupted. Their team clapped and shouted Daniel's name. A few even looked at Lyra with surprise instead of mockery. She stood frozen, clutching her robe, her chest rising and falling with fast breaths. Then Daniel ran back to her, grinning ear to ear. "You did it! You grabbed it, you ran, you passed! That's exactly what you were supposed to do." Her lips parted in shock. Did she really do it? The memory replayed in her head, her hands holding the ball, her feet running forward, Daniel catching it. It had happened. She had been part of the game. A small, shy smile tugged at her mouth. "I did," she whispered. Daniel clapped her shoulder gently. "Told you." The game continued. Each round tested her courage again. Sometimes she froze, sometimes she stumbled. But each time Daniel encouraged her, and each time she grew a little braver. By the end, she even managed another pass, this time without hesitating. Not everyone cheered for her, but fewer laughed. And that was enough. When the final whistle blew, their team had won by a narrow margin. Children rushed together, cheering loudly, celebrating. Lyra stood at the edge, unsure if she was allowed to join in. But then one of the other teammates, a human girl, smiled at her and said, "Good pass back there." Lyra blinked. The words were simple, but they meant everything. Someone other than Daniel had noticed her effort. Someone had spoken to her, without mockery. Her smile widened, fragile but real. She whispered, "Thank you." Daniel came over, his face shining with pride. "See, I knew you could do it. Tomorrow you'll be even better." Lyra nodded softly. Her chest felt full, her heart light. For the first time, she didn't just dream of being part of the game. She had lived it. That night, as she lay in her bed, she thought back to the moment the ball rolled toward her. She had almost run away. But then Daniel's voice had reached her, steady and sure. His trust had been stronger than her fear. And because of that, she had stepped forward. She whispered to herself in the dark, "Tomorrow I will not freeze." And in her heart she knew this was only the beginning. The following week, another big game was planned inside the recreation dome. Word had spread about the last match. Children were eager, and this time even more came to watch. For most of them, it was only a game, a way to laugh and compete. But for Lyra, It felt like a mountain waiting to be climbed. She had played once and survived. She had even helped her team. That memory gave her courage. But deep inside, the fear still lived. She worried that maybe last time was only luck. What if today she froze again? What if she made her team lose? As she walked into the dome, her hands tightened around the folds of her robe. Her steps slowed, but then she saw Daniel waiting near the field. He waved at her with his usual bright grin. "There you are," he called. "Ready?" Lyra nodded slowly. The knot in her chest loosened just a little. Daniel always had a way of making the air lighter. Teams were chosen quickly. To Lyra's surprise, no one argued about her joining this time. A few looked doubtful, but no one tried to stop her. That was already progress. The whistle blew and the game began. From the start, the match was harder than the last one. The other team was faster, louder, more determined. The ball switched hands again and again. Children ran, shouted, and tumbled across the grass. Lyra ran too, following Daniel's lead. She was still clumsy, but she kept moving, refusing to freeze like before. At one point, the ball bounced close to her. She caught it, stumbled forward, then passed to Daniel. The cheers that followed filled her chest with warmth. It wasn't just him now. Others were beginning to notice her too. But the real test came midway through the game. The ball had rolled toward her side again. She bent down to grab it, but just as her fingers touched it, a larger alien boy from the opposing team slammed past her. His arm brushed her shoulder roughly and she lost her balance. Lyra fell hard onto the grass. Pain shot through her knees and the air left her chest. For a moment, the world blurred. She lay there frozen, her breath shaky. Children around her laughed, not cruelly but thoughtlessly, caught up in the noise of the game. To them, it was just part of the match. But to Lyra, it felt like all her fears had come true. She had fallen in front of everyone. She was weak, clumsy, broken. Her first instinct was to run away. She wanted to stand up, leave the field, and hide somewhere quiet. The old voice in her head whispered, "You don't belong here. You never did." Then a shadow fell across her. Daniel knelt beside her, his hand gentle on her arm. His voice was steady, low, only for her to hear. "Hey, you're okay? It's just a fall. Everyone falls. Get up. Come on." Lyra shook her head, her eyes stinging. "I cannot," she whispered. "They laugh. I am not strong." Daniel's expression grew serious, but his voice stayed calm. "They don't laugh. At you. They laugh at the game. Look around. People fall every minute. Did you see me trip earlier? Nobody cared. Falling doesn't mean you don't belong. It means you're playing." His words pierced through her storm of fear. Slowly, she lifted her head. Around them, the game was still going. Children stumbled, collided, laughed, shouted, and kept running. No one had truly stopped to mock her. The world wasn't pointing at her. It was moving on. Daniel reached out his hand again. "Stand with me. You're stronger than you think." Her chest rose and fell quickly. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust that his words were true. Slowly, with trembling fingers, she placed her hand in his. He pulled her up gently, steadying her until she stood again. The ball had moved far away now, but Daniel leaned close and whispered, "This time don't stop. Keep running, even if you fall again. Promise?" Lyra nodded, her throat tight. When the ball came near again, she was ready. It bounced toward her side and her heart leapt into her throat. Fear tried to grab her again, but she remembered Daniel's words. Everyone falls. Falling means you're playing. Her feet moved. She caught the ball before anyone else reached it. Shouts rose, footsteps thundered. An opponent rushed toward her. For a second, panic almost froze her. But then Daniel's voice rang out from across the field. "Run, Lyra." She ran. Her steps were uneven, her breath sharp, but she pushed forward. The opponent lunged, reaching for her arm, but she twisted away at the last second, barely escaping. Gasps echoed from the sidelines. No one had expected the quiet girl to dodge like that. Her chest burned, her legs shook, but she kept going until she saw Daniel open ahead. She threw the ball toward him. It wobbled in the air, but he caught it and dashed forward, scoring a clean point. Cheers exploded across the dome. This time several voices called her name. "Nice run, Lyra." "Good dodge." She froze, shocked. Her name. They were calling her name. Daniel jogged back to her, grinning. "See? I told you. Stronger than you think." Her lips curved into a smile, wide and unafraid. For the first time, she didn't feel like a shadow at the edge of the field. She felt like she was part of the game, part of the team. The rest of the match was a blur of movement and sound. Lyra stumbled again, but each time she rose quicker. She even made another clever move. Instead of running straight, she passed the ball to a teammate who scored. That earned her another cheer. By the end, when the final whistle blew, the score was close. But it didn't matter who had won. What mattered was that Lyra had stayed until the end. She had played, she had fallen, and she had risen. She had been seen. After the game, children crowded around, talking loudly about the best moments. A few came up to her, not mocking but smiling. "Good job, Lyra," one said. Another nodded. "You were fast out there." Her heart swelled. She could hardly believe it. Daniel clapped her back gently. "Told you they'd see you." She turned to him, her eyes shining. "Thank you," she whispered. "For not letting me stop." He grinned. "That's what friends do." The word struck her deeply. Friends. She had never had one before. Now she did. That night, lying in her bed, Lyra replayed the fall in her mind. She remembered the pain, the fear, and then Daniel's hand pulling her up. She remembered running, the cheers, her name on other children's lips. She whispered softly into the dark, "I am not alone." And for the first time, she truly believed it. The recreation dome looked brighter than ever that day. Maybe it was only the lights, or maybe it was because Lyra's heart felt lighter. She no longer stood at the very edge of the field, hidden in shadows. She walked with Daniel now, step by step, as though the invisible wall around her had finally broken. The other children noticed the change too. They no longer glanced at her as if she were strange or out of place. Some waved. A few even smiled. It wasn't perfect acceptance. Not yet, but it was a beginning. And for Lyra, that beginning was more precious than she could ever describe. "Today," Daniel said, grinning as they stepped onto the field, "you're going to score. I know it." Lyra froze, her eyes wide. "Me? No, I cannot." "Yes, you can," Daniel replied firmly. "You've run. You've passed. You've dodged. Scoring is just the next step. Trust me." His confidence made her chest flutter. She lowered her gaze but nodded softly. If Daniel believed it, maybe it was possible. The match began. This game was the biggest yet. Word of the children's matches had spread, and now many more had come to watch. Parents leaned against the rails. Older youths cheered from the sidelines, and even a few officers from the station had stopped to see what the noise was about. For Lyra, it felt like the whole station was watching. The whistle blew and the game exploded into motion. Feet thundered, voices rang, the ball soared through the air. Lyra ran, her steps quicker, smoother now. She no longer hesitated. She knew the rhythm of the game, the pattern of passes, the spaces between. At first, she did what she always did. She supported, she passed, she followed Daniel's lead. But as the game went on, she began to move differently. Her eyes scanned the field and she started to see openings herself. She wasn't just copying anymore. She was playing. Halfway through, the ball landed near her. She grabbed it without thinking, her fingers closing firmly around its surface. An opponent rushed at her, but instead of panicking, she shifted sideways, slipping past. Cheers erupted. "Go, Lyra!" someone shouted. Her chest soared at the sound. Her name was being cheered, not whispered, not mocked, but celebrated. She passed the ball to a teammate, who ran it forward, and though they didn't score that round, the whole team clapped her back. Daniel jogged to her side, grinning. "See? You're a natural." She laughed softly, shaking her head. Not natural. Learning. Learning fast, he corrected. The game pressed on. Sweat dampened her hair, her robe clung to her legs, but she didn't care. Her breath came. Hard, but it wasn't from fear. It was from effort, from being part of something. Then came the moment Daniel had predicted. The ball flew high, bouncing off several hands before rolling right into Lyra's path. For a second, she froze, stunned. She could hear Daniel's voice somewhere behind her. "It's yours, Lyra. Take it." Her fingers tightened. She picked it up and began to run. The field stretched before her, opponents closing in from all sides. Her heart raced, but she didn't stop. She weaved left, then right, her small frame slipping through spaces others couldn't. A larger child tried to block her, but she darted under his arm, light as a shadow. Gasps rose from the sidelines. The quiet Zarian girl was running alone toward the goal. Her legs burned, her chest ached, but she kept going. Every step was powered by the memory of all those days she had stood alone, longing silently. Every step was powered by Daniel's faith in her. The goal was just ahead. An opponent lunged, almost grabbing her arm, but she twisted sharply, nearly losing her balance, and kept going. She lifted the ball high, threw with all her strength, and it sailed past the line. The whistle blew. The point was hers. For a moment, the whole dome was silent, stunned. Then cheers erupted, louder than any she had ever heard. Children shouted her name. Parents clapped. Even the officers smiled. "Lyra! Lyra! Lyra!" She stood frozen, her chest heaving, eyes wide. The sound washed over her like a tide. She had done it. She had scored. Daniel ran to her, his grin so wide it looked like it might split his face. He grabbed her shoulders and laughed. "I told you, I knew you could do it." Her lips trembled, then curved into the brightest smile she had ever shown. It wasn't shy or hidden. It was wide, proud, and unafraid. Her whole face glowed with, I did it," she whispered, almost in disbelief. "You did more than that," Daniel said warmly. "You showed everyone who you are." The rest of the game blurred after that. The other team scored, then her team scored again. But no matter what happened, the moment was sealed. Everyone had seen her, truly seen her. She was no longer the silent girl at the edge. She was part of the game, part of the team. When the final whistle blew, her teammates rushed around her, clapping her back, cheering her name again. One girl even grabbed her hand and said, "Next time, you're on my team." Lyra's chest swelled with joy so strong it felt like she might float away. Later, as the dome emptied and the voices faded, she and Daniel sat on the grass together, catching their breath. "You were amazing," Daniel said, tossing a small stone into the dirt. "You know, when I first saw you standing alone, I thought..." She looked sad. "I didn't know if you'd even talk to me, but now look at you. You're the star." Lyra shook her head softly. "Not star. Just not alone anymore." Daniel smiled. "That's even better." Silence fell between them, but it wasn't heavy. It was warm, comfortable. Lyra looked up at the dome lights, imagining her homeworld's skies. For the first time, she thought maybe this place could be home too. Not because of the walls or the machines, but because of the people who made her feel like she belonged. That night, when she returned to her family quarters, her parents saw her smile before she even spoke. She told them everything, how she had run, how she had scored, how they had cheered her name. Her parents listened with tears in their eyes, proud of their daughter's courage. Before sleeping, Lyra lay in bed, hugging her blanket close. She thought of Daniel's words, of the cheers, of the moment she had thrown the ball across the line. A soft laugh escaped her lips. She whispered to herself, "I have a reason to smile," and she knew that from now on, she would never stand alone again.